Got it.
Shake his hand, Zubats.
Single-digit deficit. They blitz Jokic back outside to Murray. Leonard is on him. Shot clock at 6. It's a 3. Murray good.
Do you know just how many points LeBron will score tonight? Prove that you're a prop bet god with Thrive Fantasy and win cash prizes. Download the app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store using the promo code SWING when you sign up. Receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Thrive Fantasy. Sign up and prop up today. Hello and welcome to the off-season edition of The Swing. As always, it's your boy HK, and I'm joined by my co-host, Oasis, to talk about someone very special today.
Someone from this random city that we very much know in the Canada area, a city called Kitchener.
Is there a blue arrow indicating which direction I need to go to get to Kitchener?
Yes, there definitely is. We're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets, but more importantly, the emergence of this new threat in the making or already there, Jamal Murray, the blue arrow.
He is there, and he is here to make his presence felt. Yes, Jamal Murray is the topic of today's podcast. We get to talk about who is undoubtedly the best Canadian in the league at the moment, but we get to take a little bit of time to actually break down as to how he's gotten there, how he's taken that next step, how he's become not only an elite scorer in today's league, but his passing has now become yet another of his many strengths. And in this last playoff run, Jamal Murray showed just why he is a force and a half to be reckoned with.
You know, you would watch those games over and over again just because of the ridiculousness that you witnessed. It was just, he was so locked in. And do you have any stat lines?
Look, he sent my head spinning more than Rudy Gobert on that 360, because in this last postseason, going off for 26.5 points, 5 rebounds a game, 6.5 assists, while shooting 50.5% from the field and 45% from the three-point line. And this is in the playoffs. This is against the defensive juggernaut of the Utah Jazz, the defensive wing duo of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and then against the LA Lakers, where even though the Nuggets were just a step too far there, it was not because of Jamal Murray, who showed that as the lights get brighter, his star only shines. Just an insane performance. What did you take most out of Jamal Murray's performances in these last playoffs?
So first of all, Canada, because as a Canadian basketball fan, you know, it goes to show that, you know, with hard work and commitment and just that dedication towards, you know, that goal, you can also be a Canadian elite basketball player. Who would have thought, like, someone to take over the NBA that, especially in the bubble in the playoff season, that much? It just gave me a sense of, you know, pride. Yourself as well, I'm assuming?
Yeah, no doubt. Look, in many ways, it's been coming all this
100%.
time. You know, that Vince Carter, the Carter effect, obviously the documentary talked about it. All these Canadian players talk about how in many ways that is what got them into the game. That's what had them working on their craft. And it's just fitting that pretty much a generation after that is where we're starting to see the fruits of that labor really sow themselves into players now like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and now into Jamal Murray, who has really not just made himself a household name in that bubble, he's really put more of the Canadian basketball into the focus. You would never see Kitchener get called out on a national stage, but Jamal Murray did that. And the thing is, he's done it in steps. This has been something that you have seen over the last 4 seasons in which he's been in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, came in as a great shooter from day one. even back when he was on Kentucky, 40% three-point shooter, and that was always going to be a big part of his game. But the question was, for a guy who's otherwise undersized, 6'3", 6'4", depending on who you believe as far as height's concerned, how is he going to really make an impact on the league and on his team? And he's done that by adding such incredibly shiftiness to his game, to his dribble, and his capability to escape out of any situation that's presented to him. And that was, to me, the biggest boon that we saw in this playoff run especially.
I agree with you. His shiftiness, it is the Hezzies. The Hezzies were so effective this playoff, and the Hezzy itself was not just effective on one side of the ball, but on the other side too. So, whether he's trying to be a catch and shoot sort of guy, and he Hezzies and gets through some screens and slips away for that open shot, he did it. If he had to go left hand, he would do it. Right hand, he would do it. Mid range, he would do it. 3-point line, he would do it. Layups, he would do it. Just the offensive arsenal and the versatility that he brought to Denver. And mind you, big credit goes to the team itself just because of how effectively they played together as a unit. That free-flowing offense did just wonders and had a lot of these, Jokic you got to give a lot of credit to as well for being such a smart player. And it helps. But you go back and you look at the tapes, and let me tell you, Jamal Murray is a shot creator. So there were instances where he had to ISO, and he would let some ridiculous shots up. There was that corner three not corner three, but just on the side against Kawhi.
Yes.
As almost like a side fadeaway. What the hell?
Yep.
And that's iced the game against the Clippers. And then you have other situations where he's literally leaping from the free throw line and finishing these ridiculous floaters or layups coming out of nowhere. And, Rudy Gobert is someone inside in the first round. And again, these guys came back 3-1 twice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that too.
You forget that.
It came from the anchor of, the points production of Jamal Murray. So it's just a pleasure to watch. I mean, he gives me a little bit of Kyrie vibes in the sense that the bigger the moment, the more he wants it. And just that versatility, that shiftiness.
Yeah, no, Jamal's footwork is definitely just absolutely up there as far as guards are concerned, and you talked about his eliteness on the inside now. Again, for an undersized guy, just listen to this. In this last season, at the basket, he shot 67% in the regular season, and that jumped up to 72% in the playoffs. So these are shots within 0 to 3 feet, layups, dunks, all those ones where he's able to get inside. And again, he is coming up against some trees in there, whether it be Rudy Gobert in the first round, whether it be Zubats in the second, or whether it be Anthony Davis in the last one. Just consistently showing his capability to be able to handle any defender that's put in front of him. And you spoke about Jokic obviously being a huge factor to that, because these Denver Nuggets have that star duo to allow each of these guys to pretty much work in one-on-one situations. There aren't too many times where you can just double them willy-nilly, because not only do Denver have the outside shooting to hurt you, the amount of 3-and-D players they have on that squad, whether it be Gary Harris, whether it be Jeremy Grant, whether it be Torrey Craig. Yeah, Paul Millsap, he's their veteran presence to help keep them going as well. But it really just comes down to, you have one-on-one situations that get created, and Jamal Murray is showing just why he is so deadly in that. Because, as you said, he is so quick to get a shot off. You can see the shot release point, or even the shot set point, is much lower than you see many other guards. It's very Steph Curry, very Damian Lillard-esque, in the sense of he gathers it right here in front of his eyes and is able to get it off very quickly. And the other side of it is just how well he contorts his body, because he can essentially be, I said, that old adage of you want your feet to be set going towards the basket. He's away from that. He's more at 11 as far as his feet are concerned, and then he's able to contort his body, take those crazy fadeaways, and hit them at such a ridiculous clip that at this point Jamal Murray is very much a complete offensive player. And that inconsistency that plagued him in his first 3 seasons in the league, that pretty much went away in these playoffs. I don't know whether it was the bubble that allowed him to get that level of consistency going, the repetitions that got created, because his work ethic has already been shown to be just legendary. The dude shows up at the arena itself, like 2 hours before, and he's doing like Harlem Globetrotter drill the whole time. You can follow it on his Instagram. Some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But just, the work he has put in to be able to get to this stage, and now the improvements that we're seeing offensively, and, enough to not be a defensive liability, which was another problem. The sky is the absolute limit for Jamal.
100%. Some of the things that I really noticed with Jamal in particular is it's like, I don't want to compare anybody to like Kobe or anything like that. I really don't. But when he was locked in, you saw like nothing fazed him, and that was kind of like it was so cold, man. When like, I'm just reminiscing back to some of those like big dunks even. He's throwing it down from the free. There was this. You were talking about this ridiculous sort of like video you watched on YouTube where they were talking about how Jamal was jumping from ridiculous lengths and stuff like that. Just to give credit to Jamal, apart from his game, his physique. So he actually gained muscle over this, of course, off season, but also during that quarantine time, he strengthened himself up, which really did help if you look at the way he played to kind of bully his way into, the paint or brush off defenders and finish hard. So.
Yeah. Look, Kenny talked about when we were talking about Jason Tatum, just how essentially this time off in between the regular season and that break before we got back into the bubble, for many players, it essentially gave them an off season's worth of work. So for those who would be, third, fourth, fifth year players, it's like another year got added in terms of their experience, in terms of their capability to work on their physicality in general, as well as their speed. And Jamal Murray definitely, you could see even just from prior to the break, as you said, to then, there was noticeable changes as far as his body's concerned. He looked bigger. He just looked like a more imposing specimen for a guard. And that's just, especially when you get to the grind of the beat 'em down times of the playoffs, you need that. And Jamal was able to definitely benefit from that. And shout out to that video. I believe it was All Analytics Basketball that talked about it, where Jamal was basically taking off from either right at the free throw line or in front of it, and allowing his extension to be able to do that, and his unique ability to essentially jump really far forward horizontally, which is on his jump shot as well. So if you take a look at a number of his threes where he's getting them off the dribble, and he likes to shoot off the bounce, as in get both feet on the bounce and go. But he kind of does that in a way where he's able to propel himself forward. So those shots where he likes taking them from 6, 7 feet behind the three-point line, they're not as deep as you think, and it just gets them off quicker than so many guards in the league.
Yeah, quick release, green machine.
Green machine.
But yeah, speaking of that as well, it's like his step backs are so elite too. And you look at guys like Jamal Murray and then Luka Doncic as well. I think I see a lot of similarities in the way that they have their step back game, because it doesn't necessarily look as crazy as a Kyrie or like the flair isn't there entirely, but the distance that they cover, you wouldn't even expect that much distance to be covered with just a step back. So I remember seeing multiple mid-range step backs that Jamal has. He comes in, dribbles, presses to the basket, brings it back, and he's already like created two people's space between him and the defender, whether it be from the three-point line or the mid-range. So just using that as a tool is so effective, especially in the playoffs. We talk about this all the time, but I always mention how the mid-range is so important in the playoffs, because you need that elite bucket getter, that single guy that you can rely on, right? So for Denver, I think they have that guy. Like, Jokic is great in his own right, and he's fantastic. However, like, if you need someone to, if you need that Jordan-esque, I don't want to compare, but that guy, go to Jamal Murray is that guy. See that Denver is going to be a very successful team in the next few.
Yeah, look, Jamal talked about just how incredibly pissed off he was of last year. In the year where they not only had a great series win against the San Antonio Spurs in 7, but frankly shot themselves in the foot in Game 7 against Portland. I've talked about this game before, where honestly there was no reason why Denver should have lost that game. And it was at home in a scenario where not only were they up, I believe, 10 points going into the fourth, but they had that lead about 5 minutes left as well. And frankly, Jamal Murray shit the bed in that game. 4 of 18, 14 points. And this was in a playoff series where he had already started to establish himself, had back-to-back 34-point games, had been pretty much outplaying both CJ and Dame in that series. And for him to have the kind of essential disappointment that he did in that Game 7, he really wanted to come back from that. And he himself has talked about how that fueled their never say die attitude. Again, down 3-1 twice. Every series other than this Lakers one that Jamal Murray has been to, the Nuggets have stretched it to 7 games. How crazy is that? Imagine being pretty much taking
dominant
every series all the way to the end. That never happens. But Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic combined have done that. And what that allows Denver to have is experience. And that experience is going to be what makes them just so dangerous as time keeps going.
Yeah, and you talk about those two guys in particular. They're still young, right? So that future is so bright, and all you really need to do at this point is build, right? Skinny Jokic played fantastic in the playoffs as well. So building a great team, they already have a fantastic foundation, and I think the chemistry is all there. Now, some guys are getting old, so they might need to make some moves, but at the same time, man, give it a few, even next season, you might see these guys as being finals contenders. Seriously.
Yeah. Look, there's always going to be, at this moment, that road that runs through LA with the current situation as it's set up, but Denver is going to consistently be that team that you have to watch out for. And you talked about, aging versus young. The young core here is going to be around.
Oh, yeah.
Jamal Murray just signed his 5-year deal last year, so he's there for the long run. Nikola Jokic, man, the most coordinated guy I've ever seen, but he is just an absolute monster. So those two present such a unique problem to every other team in the league, and the fact of the matter is, as long as Denver can do what they did in this last playoff run, in which they not only did as well offensively as they did, but that defense came back for them. They played at what would have been a top 10 defensive level after going down 3-1 for the remainder of that entire playoff run. So they became, it's like a weird switch that got flipped. They literally went from the worst defensive team in that playoff bubble, as well as just in general how badly they were playing, to up against the wall, figured something out. A lot of it, I think, also does go to players like Jeremy Grant being able to take on a lot of those. Yeah. I love Jeremy Grant. Let's throw that out there.
Score some big threes, but also rebounds and just taking on assignments that were really difficult. But this particular podcast is about Jamal Murray, and we've said our piece. We want to know from you guys, what do you think? Do you think that we can consider Jamal Murray to be a top 3 point guard in the league right now? Do you see him carrying Denver to the finals in the next 2 to 3 years? What do you think of Jamal Murray? Comment below. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a lot more off-season episodes for you. This just happened to be the first one because we love Canada.
Absolutely. Look, we wanted to take the opportunity to start doing a couple of player profiles, really breaking down on some of the rising stars in the league today. As we just talked about, he is definitely a top guard in the league. I think he will be an all-star next year, no doubt, especially with some aging guards in Chris Paul and Westbrook likely not being there next year. Curry probably makes one of those spots, assuming he's healthy. So that other spot is for Jamal for the taking. And with that, the Swing Podcast will take its leave for this week. Join us once again as we go through yet another player next time around, as well as some other interesting topics.